The Woodlands Health and Rehab Center is the right choice for rehab at home. Our therapy department, with the assistance of our experienced clinical team, will transition you home quickly and safely. The Woodlands Health and Rehab Center, living made better.
Mayor Cybold, Mr. Douglas, and other members of the City Council. I'm Ingrid Barber, I'm the Executive Director of Alleghany Highlands Community Services Board, and I'm here tonight to seek the approval of our 2019-2020 performance contract under the Code of Virginia. But before I begin, I just want to personally thank you for the local funding that you provided the agency. Your local funding is so important to our agency, and I want to provide you with an update of what you've done to support our jail endeavors. With the funds that you provided for jail services, we have seen from April of 2017 to December of 2017, there's been 202 psychiatric visits in the jail. And then also from January of 2018 to August of 2018, there's been 170 psychiatric visits in the jail. And that is with the funding that you provided to the jail. In addition, we've had some therapy groups. There's been 23 therapy groups in the jail, and 25 of them have included women, and 16 of them have included men. So we thank you for your local support with your match that you provide us, but we also thank you for the jail dollars that you are giving to the CSB so we can work in cooperation with our local jail to provide some treatment in the jail. So tonight, I'm going to go over some of the changes with the performance contract. The document was rather thick. Some of the changes that we're having this year include requirements to grant same-day access services. So you can come into our clinic and get a clinical evaluation, and you don't have to have an appointment Monday through Friday from the hours of 12:30 to 3:30. And if a person comes in and say they need to see a psychiatrist, we are required to have that happen within 10 days, 10 business days. So they will get a clinical assessment by a licensed or license eligible clinician, and then if they have to come back with psych services or other therapy services or whatever, then we try to make that happen within 10 days. Another change is that we have to keep 2 months worth of reserves in our total budget. That's just something that they're requiring all the CSBs to have. We don't have a problem with that. We do have a reserve, and we monitor that on a monthly basis. In addition, developmental case management staff, when they're hired, they have to be trained within 30 days on case management services, and then they also have to be trained on the instrument that they use for individuals that have intellectual and developmental disabilities, on the instrument that measures that. That's one of the changes. And then there's some changes to the protocols with state hospital census management and admission protocols. We have a lot of people going into the state hospitals. The state hospitals are over capacity. They're at 95 to 98% capacity. So as we admit someone, we are working on discharging them as we admit them, because they're trying to keep the census to no more than 15 days of a person being in there unless they really need to be there. In the state hospital, now that it is the bed of last resort, we're getting more and more admissions, more and more people across the state of Virginia to the state hospitals. So I'm going to go over the Exhibit A that was in your packet, and we also provided it to you in the handout. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our total budget. If you look over in the left-hand column, it lists all the funding sources, and we receive state funding, local funds, and then there's some fees from Medicaid, where we bill for Medicaid and private insurance and all of that. But what we're looking at this year for mental health services is a total of $2,894,061. For developmental services, we're looking at $3,881,150. And for substance use disorder services, which I'm very happy under this category because we've increased some of the services under substance use. We're doing substance use case management in addition to medication assisted treatment. We're looking at a total budget of $811,987 for a grand total of $7,587,198. In addition, we have emergency services built in. If anyone comes into this area, it needs to be seen for an evaluation, so crisis intervention evaluation, we have to see them regardless of whether they're in our catchment area or not. we're anticipating that we're going to be spending around $332,852 to manage that program. That's because that is a 24/7 program. I have to have someone available to do an evaluation at any time. So, and then the ancillary services that are added in there are $229,931 for a total budget of $7,587,198. What I will point out to you is I still continue to try to keep our administrative costs very low. They're not even at 20%. So our total administrative costs, administrative expenses that are built into this budget are anticipated to be around 17.69%. So that does show you that I am putting most of the dollars into services. As a small CSB, and we're going to be having our commissioner to pay a visit here, our new commissioner. I'm proud to say that we offer many more services than many of the larger CSBs across the state. So you can see where your dollars are going, your local dollars, and where we are using the dollars within the CSB system. We still employ up to close to 140 employees, plus or minus, some of them being full-time and some of them being part-time. And we will be celebrating our 35th anniversary of existing in the community in October. So I will entertain any questions that you may have if you have any. If not, we hope that you'll approve our performance contract.
Question, comment, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
On the substance abuse disorder, substance use disorder, as we hear more and more about the opioid crisis and the governor's push now to work on the opioid crisis, it seems like a very small portion of your budget is going to substance abuse. I appreciate what you've stepped up to do in the jail. I know that's been difficult. Do you see any increases in that money in the future since there is such a push?
I think there will be increases. I think that you have to grow the services. We're going to start using some peers. However, in order to get reimbursement for the service, you have to have certified peers and they have to go through a 72-hour program. And there's some training that is going to be coming up, and we have one certified peer already within the CSB system, but we'd like to get another 3 to 4 certified peers, and we'll be able to bill for those peers, but we'll have to pay them in order to be peers also. But yeah, I think with the increase in substance abuse case management and the ability for us to have the medicated assisted treatment program in addition to the other services that we're providing, I see a push for there to be additional funding. The state's got to find the funding. That's the problem.
Could you describe the peer services a little bit?
Well, what we're looking at, we're working on, and I'm working with your Chief of Police on this initiative where we're going to be submitting a grant for a CIC Assessment Site, and our plan is to have an assessment site down at the hospital annex to the old Emmett Center in the back, and we'd like to have maybe 1 or 2 peers helping in the assessment site when someone is brought in for a crisis. What the assessment site will allow us to do is to keep people out of the emergency room. They'll be in a secured area where we have a licensed clinician to do the assessment. We have an officer on duty. We have peers there to help support that person. And then, of course, they have to have medical screening if they're going to be sent to a state hospital. But and they're held at the assessment site for a few hours, then we may be able to come up with a plan to send them back home or to have some sort of supports. We also use peers in our intensive outpatient groups. Well, those are people who are caught with substances, and then they may be mandated by probation and parole to go to that group, and then we'll have peers in that group to help support them, because those are people with lived experiences. They've gone through the same thing that the people who are court ordered there or community people who are in the program, and they can relate to those folks. So, and then another thing that we'd like to do is maybe to have peers incorporated in our psychosocial rehab program.
So, is there a cost to the peer to become qualified, or is that paid for?
Well, right now we're going to try to look for the money in our budget to have them trained, and then there are going to be some scholarships offered for some of the individuals. A lot of the problems with getting peers trained are they don't have the transportation. We have a lot of people around here that are in recovery. They walk to our programs, and that's what's good about us being in the city.
Right.
But they just don't have transportation to get to Winchester for the training or to get to Salem for the training. So we have to find a way to make that happen.
How receptive are the inmates at the jail to the program you're doing?
They're very receptive. As a matter of fact, some of them are very receptive to the psych services too. They have the ability, I work with Lieutenant Dan in the jail, and they have an ability to go to Lieutenant Dan or jail staff and the nurse and say that they want to participate in the groups. Or if they want to see the psychiatrist or the nurses, they can sign up. And then some of them it's the staff to see a need for them to be seen, and they will make a recommendation that they be seen. But they are very receptive.
Good. She said.
I know you probably don't have nothing to do with this, maybe have some information for us, but often I hear reference to drug courts and the need for drug courts in the area. Is there anything happening that would create a drug court for us in Alleghany Highlands?
Well, in order for us to have a drug court here in Alleghany County, we're going to have a full-time judge, because that judge is very active in the treatment with the individual when you're going through a drug court. They have to meet with them weekly, and it's a lot of time and effort. You have to have clinicians involved in order to make that happen. I am working with Laura Dasher to try to implement a drug court for juveniles. And we have also submitted a grant for a juvenile diversion program that we want to put in place here for the individuals before they're sent to detention, where we can go in and screen them and work with them and try to find some services that we can do here in the community before we send them away to detention. We wrote up a grant and worked with District 25 just for our catchment area, and the grant is about $211,000, and we should find out something around the end of September to see if we can get some services around here for the kids that are at threat of the juvenile justice area. But Laura can make that happen because she's around here and she can put the time and make it, she can make that happen around here. But we have to have a full-time judge for the adults.
And is there a process in place that we're going to have a full-time judge soon?
I think that's something that you're going to have to advocate for.
Well, I had, talking to the area delegate and senator, they both told me that they were in the process of trying to get somebody appointed here. And I don't know how that is or where it's happening. But that was a few months ago.
Drug courts have been very successful in the communities that they have them in. I know they have one in Roanoke, and it is very successful. But again, you have to have that dedicated judge who's willing to meet with all of those individuals weekly and ensuring that they're abiding by whatever the protocols are. And also there's some drug testing involved, and you're trying to link some of these individuals to find jobs. And, you have to keep them pretty active through the process. So we're going to have a full-time judge in order to make it happen.
Okay. Didn't mean to grill you.
That's fine.
Just curious.
That's fine.
Any other questions, council? No good?
I move for approval. Second. The performance contract.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was thinking we would do that later. Okay. So is there any other discussion about that? So all in favor of approving the performance contract? Aye. Everybody good? We're good, Ms. Wood. It's approved.